It was a world on the edge, a time of restless empires, crumbling peace, and ambitions that reached across oceans. The year was 1930, and far across the Pacific, a storm was quietly gathering. Japan, once a secluded island nation, had transformed itself into a rising industrial power. Its people were disciplined, devoted, and filled with a sense of destiny. They had defeated China, humbled Russia, and now dreamed of something greater, an empire of their own. But dreams come with hunger. Japan's factories demanded oil, iron, coal, and rubber, resources its islands could not provide. To survive, it needed to expand. And so its eyes turned outward, to the vast riches of China, the jungles of Southeast Asia, and the islands of the Pacific. The dream had a name: the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, a vision of Asia led by Japan, free from Western domination. But there was one problem. Much of Asia was already under Western control. Across the Pacific stood another giant, the United States of America. A young, confident nation that believed in democracy, free trade, and peace through strength. America's presence in the Philippines, Guam, and Hawaii made it the gatekeeper of the Pacific. And though oceans separated them, Japan and America were heading toward the same destiny, a collision course that no one could stop. In 1931, Japan struck its first blow. Its army invaded Manchuria, a vast region of northern China, rich in coal and iron. The world condemned the invasion, but no one stopped it. The League of Nations protested, but Japan simply walked out. The message was clear: Japan would no longer be bound by the rules of others. 6 years later, the invasion spread. In 1937, Japanese forces poured into China, capturing cities like Shanghai and Nanjing. What followed shocked the world: mass executions, burning homes, and the slaughter of innocents. The rape of Nanking became a symbol of war's darkest side. Yet the Western powers remained silent. Europe was already trembling under Hitler's shadow. The world looked away. But America could not ignore it forever. At first, the United States tried to reason with Japan, diplomatic notes, warnings, and peaceful talks. But trade continued, even in weapons and oil. American fuel powered Japanese planes that bombed Chinese cities. Slowly, public opinion began to shift. America, the land of liberty, could no longer be the silent supplier of war. Then, in 1940, the world changed forever. Germany under Hitler, Italy under Mussolini, and Japan under Emperor Hirohito signed the tripartite pact, the Axis Alliance. It was a pact of steel, binding 3 nations with a single promise: domination of the world through force. President Franklin Roosevelt watched with growing concern. America responded with sanctions, freezing Japanese assets and restricting exports. But the final blow came in 1941, when the U.S. cut off Japan's supply of oil, the lifeblood of its Navy and Air Force. To Japan, this was not just economic pressure, it was a death sentence. Without oil, their empire would grind to a halt. Their factories would fall silent. Their ships would never sail again. Surrender was unthinkable. Inside smoky rooms in Tokyo, Japan's military leaders argued over their future. Some pleaded for negotiation, others demanded action. Among them was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, a man of honor and vision. He said, "If we must fight, we must strike a blow so powerful that the Americans will lose their will to resist." The decision was made. Japan would strike first. The plan, Operation Z, would forever change history. Its target, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, home of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The idea was simple, daring, and terrifying. Destroy the American Navy before it could fight back, cripple it in a single lightning strike. While the U.S. lay in shock, Japan would seize the oil fields of Southeast Asia and fortify its empire. The date? Sunday, December 7th, 1941. The morning sun rose gently over Oahu. The sea shimmered in peace. Sailors were just waking, some writing letters home, others attending morning service. Then, at 7:48 a.m., the sky erupted with the roar of engines. Hundreds of Japanese aircraft appeared over the horizon, bombers, torpedo planes, and fighters diving toward the harbor like metal hawks. Explosions thundered across the bay. The USS Arizona was torn apart in a blinding fireball. The USS Oklahoma capsized, trapping hundreds inside. Battleships burned, planes exploded, and within 2 hours, the pride of America's Pacific Fleet lay in ruins. Over 2,400 Americans were dead. America had been attacked. Not only its ships, but its spirit. The next day, President Roosevelt stood before Congress, his voice firm and unshaken. He said, "Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked." America declared war on Japan, and within days, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States. The world was now fully at war. Japan had won a stunning victory, but it had awakened a sleeping giant. Factories across America roared to life. Millions of young men enlisted. Ships, planes, and tanks rolled out in endless streams. The stars and stripes that once symbolized peace now marched into battle. The Pacific became a vast battlefield. In 1942, Japan struck across the Pacific. The Philippines, Malaya, Singapore, all fell under its rising sun flag. But 6 months later, the tide turned. At the Battle of Midway, American intelligence cracked Japan's secret naval codes. When Japan launched its attack, the U.S. Navy was waiting. 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, the pride of its fleet, were sunk in a single day. It was a turning point that shifted the balance of the Pacific forever. Still, the road to victory was long and brutal. The war moved island by island, Guadalcanal, Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, each one a nightmare of mud, blood, and fire. American Marines faced fanatical resistance. Japanese soldiers fought to the last man, preferring death to surrender. Civilians jumped from cliffs rather than be captured. Back in Japan, the cost was unimaginable. Cities were starving, families torn apart, and mothers wept for sons who would never return. Yet still, the nation held firm. The emperor's voice urged perseverance. To die for Japan was the highest honor. But by 1945, the empire was collapsing. Its navy was gone, its air force destroyed, its cities in ruins. American bombers, the mighty B-29s, darkened the skies over Tokyo, raining fire that reduced the city to ashes. More than 100,000 civilians died in a single night. And still, Japan refused to surrender. So America turned to a weapon unlike any before. A weapon born from science and fear. The atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, the bomber Enola Gay soared over Hiroshima. At exactly 8:15 a.m., a single bomb fell. In an instant, a city vanished. A blinding light tore through the sky. Tens of thousands were killed in seconds. Within days, radiation sickness took tens of thousands more. 3 days later, another bomb fell, this time on Nagasaki. The destruction was beyond imagination. The world entered the atomic age, an age where mankind held the power.
An age where mankind held the power to destroy itself. At last, Emperor Hirohito broke the silence. On August 15, 1945, his voice was broadcast to the nation, the first time his people had ever heard him speak. His words were calm, measured, filled with sorrow. He said, "We have decided to effect a settlement of the present situation by resorting to an extraordinary measure." Japan had surrendered. The war was finally over. What began in ambition ended in ashes. The United States had triumphed, but at a terrible cost. Over 300,000 American soldiers lost their lives. For Japan, the toll was far heavier. More than 2 million dead, entire cities gone, and a nation left in ruins. Yet from those ashes, something extraordinary emerged. Under American occupation, Japan rebuilt, not as an empire, but as a nation of peace, democracy, and innovation. Schools reopened, industries revived, and hope slowly returned. Within a generation, Japan would rise again, this time not through war, but through hard work and harmony. Today, the United States and Japan stand not as enemies, but as allies. Proof that even from the darkest wars, peace can bloom. The war between Japan and America lasted just under 4 years, from December 1941 to September 1945, but its lessons echo through history. It was not only a clash of armies, but a struggle of ideas, freedom against domination, compassion against cruelty, hope against despair. History remembers the bombs, the blood, the burning cities. But beyond all that destruction lies a deeper truth, that humanity, no matter how far it falls, can rise again. Because history is not only about the wars we fight, it's about the peace we earn. And that is the untold story of how Japan and America went to war, a story of pride, sacrifice, and the price of destiny.